Welcome to Missing the Magic, your husband and wife Disney duo. Michelle is the pixie dust optimist, cheering for warm churros and stunning fireworks. Joe is the grumpy realist, calling out lines and prices that miss the mark. We give credit where Disney makes magic and call them on it when they don't. From parks to cruises, films, and food, clear takes and sharp laughs await. Skip the fluff, keep the fun, and get tips for a smoother trip. Grab your ears, bring your backpack, and let's find the magic together.
All right, so we are back with part 2 of our Disney Store in-depth dive. I'm here with Michelle and Mew Mew.
I'm Michelle, in case you didn't.
Well, don't worry, I'll give Mew Mew her own lower third when we do the editing.
That's adorable.
So we talked about the history of it.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the cold hard facts.
Right.
We talked about how Disney screwed us by taking it away. Let's talk about the personal side of things. So
Sure.
You worked for Disney
I
Store.
was a cast member.
So explain your experience with that.
So the first interaction I had with a Disney Store, as we mentioned in our other episode, was the Freehold Raceway Mall that I lived near.
That's in New Jersey.
That is in New Jersey.
Which is really, it's so far north of New Jersey, it's really near.
Stop. It's Central Jersey. Stop. Don't be bitter. And I had applied to get a job there one point in time, had an interview, didn't get hired. Was
Wow, rejection.
distraught.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
It's like a gun. Anybody could work at Disney, right?
No. And I don't know if it was because I think I might have been 17 at the time, so it might have been an age where they wanted
discrimination. I see.
I don't know. They never said. So it just should have
happened there.
Yeah, I just kind of let it be and, whatever. And at the time I was still working for Six Flags, so it was fine. I wasn't that heartbroken.
So what prompted you to apply there?
It was Disney. pure and simple. It was the Disney Store. I loved Disney, even though I was working for a competitor theme park.
Did you have any friends that worked at the Disney Store at the time?
No, not at the time. I didn't know anybody.
So you were the trendsetter then?
Yeah. So, yeah, growing up. And I think it was also older people that worked at the Disney Store. I don't remember seeing a lot of kids there. It wasn't.
Because we all know Disney's not for kids.
Right.
Kids can't afford it.
Exactly. So I just figured, all right, whatever. I'll just not work at the mall. It's fine. So fast forward a few years later, I'm in college in South Jersey. Deptford Mall has a Disney Store. It's my senior year of college. I had some extra free time. Let me see if I can get a job. And just kind of as a fluke, I went in, filled out an application, had an interview, and got hired. And it was around, I want to say it was like October, November. So it was like right before the Christmas rush. So
talk a little bit about the interview process. What was it like? Was it grueling? Did they ask specific questions? Were they off-topic questions?
I think it was your basic interview. What kind of experience did you have? Where have you worked before?
But nothing that, required any level of Disney knowledge or anything.
No. I do remember them asking, who's your favorite Disney character? But
You're like, I don't know any Disney characters. I'm sorry.
What store is this? So, yeah, it was pretty easy. So I think maybe because of it being the time of year that it was, I was older. I was 20, so I could work late. You didn't have to worry about labor laws or things like that. I had the flexibility because I lived nearby.
Don't worry about labor laws. Don't worry.
And they were going to need help for Christmas. So I got hired. I kind of thought, all right, well, after the Christmas rush, I'll be done. And I was actually able to stay on. I continued working there part-time until I graduated the following year in May. And then I did try to actually transfer, since I was moving back home after college, to the freehold store, and nothing ever came of it. So, which was fine, because with Disney, it was only part-time. I was only working,
So
maybe.
what was it like? What did you do? What were your daily duties?
So I was basically a greeter in the store. I would be one of the cast members, as you came in, welcome. Come on in.
Well, you seem friendly enough to do that.
Yeah. Then there would be times where we would kind of rotate around the store. So I might be a greeter in the front, and then I might have to go. This is back when we had like the adult section, and we had the children's section, and we had the plush section. So we would kind of all rotate once an hour or so. So I might be in the adult clothing section. So I'd be constantly, refolding shirts, looking if things needed to be stocked, go over to where Plush Mountain was and kind of clean that up.
Did they do training in the store, or did they send you off to a training center?
No, we were trained in the store. In the back room, there was a TV with a VCR where, when they did our traditions training, that was where we would watch the video. I want to say it was maybe a 1 hour or 2 hour training. I was only ever on register like once, I think. Actually, I don't even remember if I was on register. That was going to be like the next training. So you had people that were always on register. You had kind of people that rotated around between being on register and being off. And then there were the rest of us that were kind of always, off. If we were scheduled to start the day in the store, we started off by cleaning. We were wiping down the displays. We would wipe down the outside of the store even. That would be part of our daily, cleaning, making sure, everything was stocked and that we were show ready for when the store would open. If I ended up working towards the end of the shift, it was kind of the same thing, cleaning up, making it as neat as possible, stocking as much, putting things away. Whereas
So
if you came in the middle of the day, you didn't have to worry
Right.
about the cleaning.
So did you, as a Disney Store cast member, get any of the benefits, tuition reimbursement, or anything like that cast members at the parks would get?
We did get a discount on merchandise. That was like kind of the big joke was, oh, look, here's my paycheck. How much of it is going towards my Disney credit card? That was back when Disney had their own credit card. It wasn't a Visa or MasterCard. It was a Disney credit card.
Or credit card.
So you basically used it at the store, or you could use it down in Disney parks.
It's like the old company store system for the mining industry.
Yeah. And we always would joke, look, here's my paycheck. How much of it already went to
support
back.
my employer.
Right, because that was back when the VHS tapes were coming out, and they would do like these special releases. If you pre-ordered, you'd get the lithographs with them, or you'd get a plush or a pin or something special with it. But the one thing that was probably one of the best perks that I ever had as a cast member was they offered the Disney store at Walt Disney World, and it was a vacation package. It was for yourself and a guest, and it was, I want to say, 4 or 5 day vacation, and you were staying on Disney property. It included Disney park tickets, And each morning you would do a tour, some sort of backstage tour of a Disney park or a Disney experience, and then you'd have the rest of the day in that park. So
Now, was that considered like a training for
No.
your Disney employment?
it wasn't. Nope. This was, you just had to be a Disney employee or a Disney cast member. You booked the travel through Disney Travel and such. So my mom and I went. I was the only one from my store that went on this vacation. So there were probably 50 of us on this trip total, and Disney Store cast members from all over the place. So it was kind of interesting to meet other people that were cast members from other.
How much of that trip was covered by the company?
None of it. I had to. Yeah, it was.
Was it a discounted rate?
It was a discounted, right. If I had booked that and the backstage tours, because this was kind of when the backstage tours were just kind of starting. So again, you had to know somebody that knew the phone number to call to make the backstage tour.
It was like when I booked that fireworks cruise for you.
Yeah, it was kind of, these weren't well-known things. The internet wasn't as big, of a research aid as it is now. So you had to kind of know, or you called a number and you'd ask to be transferred. So I got to do the whole Unidor of Magic Kingdom and
The Utilidors.
the Utilidor. Sorry, we got to do that. We did a backstage of Epcot, of certain areas.
Did you actually do the real backstage tour of Hollywood Studios? Or?
Yes, actually we did, because Hollywood Studios, so Animal Kingdom wasn't open at the time. So we did, and that was kind of the running joke with Hollywood Studios, because the whole idea is that you're backstage.
Right.
But we were actually backstage with some of the areas, because so Disney has their own store for cast members called Company D. So it's a whole line of products that say Company D. So anybody that wears a Company D t-shirt or jacket or keychain had to get it from that store, or you got it on eBay, because you can do that too.
Thank God for eBay.
Thank God for eBay. So you had to be a cast member to purchase it there. And one of the stops along our way when we were at Hollywood Studios was to go to the Company D store.
Nice.
So, of course, all of us are showing our ID, because we had Walt Disney Company IDs. We had to show it to be able to get the discount. So that was really cool. That was something special. We ended up doing photos in front of the castle. We did a photo with just the cast members, and then we did a photo with everybody. We even got baseball caps that had embroidery on the side saying, the Disney store at Disney World or something to that effect. So that was kind of special.
So did you have friends work with you? Did you make friends there?
I made friends, actually.
Out of clay? Or Legos?
Wood and string.
Yeah.
No,
Whittling a new friend today.
No, there were people that I became friends with that I had worked with, some closer than others. Most I really didn't keep in contact with. There was one that I kept in contact with once I left the store. Now I don't speak with that person, but at the time, for years after, I was still, friends with them.
Was it a friendly place to work?
Yeah, we all got along. We were all sick and twisted in our own Disney way. Like, we were all fans of Disney. Like, you couldn't work there and not be a fan of Like, if you hated Disney, this was not the place for you to work at.
That place why I never worked there.
Right. So we all had a love for Disney and enjoyed ourselves. There were some people that you got along with and some that you were like, oh, you're working today? Yeah, joy. But then if you saw, oh, yeah, you're working today, you're going to make the the 4 hours go by, quick.
So how rigorous was their training? And did they offer advanced training or schooling or anything like that?
I think if you were part of like the management program, there was that opportunity. I knew I wasn't gonna. My plan was never to stay beyond. Honestly,
Good thing, since they're not
exactly. I think for me, I was just happy to be a cast member.
okay.
I honestly didn't think I was going to last beyond Christmas. So the fact that I was able to continue until I left the area, if I maybe stayed down here after graduation, I probably could have continued on. I don't know if I would have been part of management at that time. I don't know.
Do you miss working there?
There are parts of me that miss working there. I was part of the
This part.
I was part of the cheerleader uniform or cheerleader costume phase. So that was kind of cute to look like a little, 1950s cheerleader with, varsity jacket, the costume.
Nowadays, that has a negative connotation.
Right. The costumes progressed into other polyester items
Mature-looking costumes.
where they weren't as fun. So I don't know. It's been a while since I've been in retail, so I don't know if I miss.
And there's a reason you're not in retail anymore. Same reason I'm not in retail anymore.
Right. Like, I think I would have enjoyed what they became with the interactive stuff and the cast experience, the guest experience. Things that they started doing, I probably would have enjoyed doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So what's the biggest life lesson you learned while you were working there? Silence is golden.
Oh, gosh. Biggest life lesson. I don't.
No life lessons? No. Work for a company that's not going to shut down the business?
Well, while I was there, they were profitable. So there wasn't really, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not all experiences give you a life lesson. That's
Right.
perfectly fine.
I think it just, I already had the work ethic. I already had, it wasn't my first job. Certainly wasn't my last job. It was just, oh, okay, I'm here to enjoy, to have fun.
Fair enough.
And not.
Didn't know where that was going to go.
Yeah.
He went nowhere.
Yeah, sorry.
Moving right along.
Anyway, next.
So after professional involvement with Disney Store,
Right.
what happened after that?
So, I left the area. I moved back home. I still would shop there. We meet, we get together, and we live near a Disney store. And then
Almost like we planned it that way.
Yeah, it was almost like we planned it that way. We start doing Disney vacations with the three of us, and then the three become four. And then Disney kind of morphs and changes, and now they start offering themed experiences, themed events at the Disney stores.
Mm-hmm.
So here's that way of, hey, you're not on a Disney vacation, but come to the store and have an experience.
Right.
And we got to do quite a few.
We did a Frozen one. I remember that.
We did a Frozen one.
That was a drink fest there. All those kids showing up dressed as Elsa.
We did that. We did a couple.
We have to explain that reference.
Okay.
So when Frozen came out, obviously one of the things Disney got dinged on was absolutely no marketing, no merchandise for it.
Right.
So everyone and their brother was coming up with replacement merchandise and Elsa costumes and stuff like that. And then 6 months, 8 months later,
all of a sudden, you could find them
all the merchandise came out. So all the little girls were dressed as Elsa.
Right. So even our daughter had, for that Halloween, after
license.
a non-license, I got something off of Etsy.
Yep.
It was which actually worked out, I think, better because it wasn't as itchy.
It was comfortable.
It was comfortable. It was stretchy. But then once they finally had dresses, yes, she did. That was really, I think, the only real Disney store costume that she ever got. She had other princess dresses, but they were...
Well, she had the Cinderella dress, but she was a toddler at the time.
Right. And that...
But anyway,
yeah.
When all the merchandise finally came out, the next trip we made to the parks
was Disneyland. That was... we went out to California.
Kids were everywhere.
Yes.
And the joke that we had at the time was, it's a drinking game. Every time you see someone dressed as Elsa, drink.
You have to drink.
So it got to the point where our daughter, how old was she at the time? I don't know, 10, 12, something like that.
10.
She was going around, before we saw the kid, she'd be like, drink. I'm like, what? She's like, drink, look, an Elsa saw her.
But she didn't know.
She didn't know one thing. She didn't know what the game was. She just kept saying,
right.
She knew we would just say drink every time we saw her.
Right. She just thought if you saw Elsa, you said drink, not knowing what drinking was.
So that day for the Frozen one, you had a whole string of kids in Elsa. So it was a drink fest.
It was a drink fest.
That's part of the game.
Then there was the Star Wars.
The Rebels, when Rebels kicked off.
No, there was the other Star Wars one that was for Star Wars Day in May. Because that was the one in Deptford, because she wore the buns in her hair. You wore a Star Wars. We all wore a Star Wars shirt.
That's right.
Because it was just Star Wars Day. So it was May the 4th. They gave out a special pin to the first 50 people or something that showed up. So we got our pin.
Did rope drops for these, by the way.
We did do rope drops for those. But you didn't have to get there.
Too. It was a rope drop.
It was a rope drop.
They would come out with a temporary velvet rope and they'd put it across the store so that you could experience a rope drop at Disney, which I thought was really cool.
They would also do is, I don't know at what point they started doing it, but then they would do for these rope drops, they had a key. They had this big giant key, and whoever was the first in line got to unlock the Disney store. Well, out of all the times that we did these events, one time, Maddie and I were the first in line, and this one was for a Halloween event. And so she got to turn the big key, and they actually gave her a little commemorative key. So now you can probably still find them online. They started making them where you could buy them, and they have different themed Disney keys, but we actually got one for
and again,
the family.
That's part of the magic, right? You can't get that at a retail store, and that's the stuff that the fans are missing.
Right,
is having that level of interaction, because the staff was awesome.
Right,
the staff was so into it. They were so great with the kids, and they just made it such a special, magical experience.
And I wonder how many of the cast members that dealt with that were teachers or preschool or something.
They definitely were someone
knew how to.
They were professionals.
To wrangle. So that's where, if I was still working as a cast member, those would be the events that I would want to do. So we did a Star Wars one when Fire and Rescue came out, which was an offshoot of Cars. They had an event for that, and it would be these cute little things. It would usually be an hour before the mall would open. You would go for these events. There would sometimes be a craft that you could do. They'd have a movie clip or something.
And I can guarantee you 95% of the people that attended these with their kids walked out of there after buying something.
Right, because that was the other thing too. By the time the event was over, the store was open. And sometimes they would give you, a 20% off coupon. So, okay. How are you going to go play in the Disney store and not walk out with
It was a great way to bring people in, make it and this was before really the stores were redecorated as interactive experiences. They would provide these.
Right.
Then they eventually wound up doing the interactive.
Right. Then they changed the interactive stores, which gave, in some cases, they built that into the store. So as we were mentioning, the Cherry Hill store was always a big store, when they remodeled it, they had like this little gazebo area with tables and chairs and the big screen TV. So they would start doing the events there. So there was one time when we couldn't book the event in Deptford, we were able to book it in Cherry Hill. And this is what was kind of weird, was that was for the Rebels one,
Right.
where the event, they had it at multiple times throughout the day. And it was actually during the store being open. So it wasn't like a pre-store.
That was probably more crowd control than anything, because they were
Maybe.
expecting a large, because there was a lot of kids for the time frame that we were in there.
No, she was the only one.
They all showed up late.
They showed up later, yeah. So what they would do is they roped off the area so that only people that were in the event could be there. And I wonder if it was a way to show people, because if you were at these other events, they were before the store would open, so you never even knew about it. I'm sure they started, okay, well, if we do some during store hours, we'll get more people to come to later ones.
And you developed a community of people that would go to these things. We'd see the same parents and same kids at multiple events, and it was an outreach to the community that really drew people together.
Right. And
it's unfortunate.
Yeah. So they just kind of stopped, and then not that much longer after, because I know when the Deptford Disney store reopened, because as we mentioned before, they moved from one area of the mall to the other, they were only open a few years, and then that's when the stores started shutting down. Cherry Hill stayed open a little bit longer, but not much.
And I think that's just because of the crowd that they catered to in the mall itself.
Right. But I'm saying in general, that was when the stores started closing. Disney was closing the stores down.
But the Cherry Hill mall tends to cater to a higher end.
They're definitely the higher end
customer than a Deptford store. So that's probably why they stuck around long.
Yeah, they were probably able to continue on. So that was definitely.
And the thing that I liked about it after the remodels is that area where the big screen was, they had a place for the adults to sit and watch the kids play.
Right, exactly.
So it was a comfortable experience for everybody.
Right. It became I can just sit here and let my kid color.
It was like a Disney community center.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. Whereas in the older versions of the store, even though they had the big screen, there wasn't any place to be comfortable.
Because where the big screen was where the plush mountain was.
Right.
So there's no place that,
Right. You'd get the kids jumping into Plush Mountain, which wasn't the safest thing. And being a cast member, you always had to, no, this is. Whereas the remodels, they made it so that it could be.
And you know what? And I guess the question that I have is, in the current state of retail, combined with online sales, do you think a Disney store concept like that would work today?
I think so. I think if they were still around, they would still be just as popular. Because you look at, as we mentioned earlier, you look at Box Lunch, you look at Hot Topic, you look at all those other.
I'm not saying it's just from a street retail. I'm saying from that interactive experience destination. You think that would still work today?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because, let's face it, most kids these days don't know how to play.
Right.
Really play. They need a screen.
Yeah.
You go to a restaurant and 9 times out of 10, the kid is staring at the screen. Hell, even the adults, and we'll admit we do the same thing. We're on a screen.
And not nearly as much as some of the other adults in the household.
Well, and a lot of times too, it's also, if it's a loud restaurant, we're not going to sit there shouting to each other to have a conversation. So sometimes it's just more where our surroundings are.
It's situational.
It's situational, where if we're someplace where we can have a conversation, our phones don't come out.
Right.
But you see these kids where that's the only thing they know. They don't know to just go and play.
Right.
And you're starting to see, though, look at Deptford Mall. Deptford Mall happens to be a mall that was kind of on a decline.
And it's surprisingly thriving now.
And is having like a resurgence. And there's actually like 2 kid play areas in the mall. So they're starting to realize kids need to play. They can't be looking at a
And that's definitely
screen all
something
the
that
time.
Disney Store accomplished.
And
You
that was
couldn't
part of
help
it.
but go in there and play and pick up stuff and
Right.
mess around with it.
And that was the thing. You could find the toy and decide, do I like this? Well,
Right.
let me go sit over here and play with it for a while.
Now, I'll tell you, I'm a big fan of shopping online. I do it far more than I probably should.
We're constantly thanking our Amazon driver.
Yeah. But, the one thing that you don't get is that tactile sense. You can't go in and try that shirt on to see if that shirt looks good with these glasses, or take a look at the ears and realize that your mini ears are bigger than, your rose gold ears. Like, you don't get that experience. You don't get to feel the product.
Right.
And that's something that's lacking from the shopping experience.
Mm-hmm.
But that's retail in general.
Right.
But what Disney gave you was that community.
Mm-hmm.
You could go in because you shared the same love and the same passion as the cast members and have a conversation with them. You knew who your cast members were.
Right. Or as soon as you would go to pay and you take out your Disney credit card.
Yep.
Oh, so when's your next Disney?
Or you put your Disney backpack, your purse up there. You pull your Disney wallet out.
Right, exactly. So when's your next trip? It was when did you... Yeah.
It was almost a chance for the ultimate Disney fans to go and interact with other ultimate Disney fans and just get into that zone.
Right. Or why don't you have a job here? That was what as I got older, it was, if you worked here, you'd get 25% off your vacation package.
Right. Well, and that's so good point about discounts. So one of the things that was great at the Disney stores is, one, DVC's got their discount.
Mm-hmm.
And Disney Visa card got their discount.
Mm-hmm.
I can go to Box Lunch and buy all the Disney merchandise I want. I'll never get that discount.
No, right.
And it was one of the few occasions that Disney ever gave a discount.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's missed. Maybe that's why they stopped doing it. Maybe they couldn't afford to do that, but I find that hard to believe.
Right.
Again, I'm not going to give Disney any credit whatsoever from a financial standpoint because they didn't need the money.
Right.
So, but it's a shame because it was a great family activity. Yeah. And we as a family missed doing that. Like, we wouldn't be doing those events down. Madison's 19 years old and wouldn't be doing stuff like that. But just the ability.
They need like the Disney adult.
Well, and that's what it was. It was that
time or something.
And I'll go back to the drug analogy. It was that high that you needed.
Absolutely.
Between those trips. Those trips were big. You had 1, maybe 2 trips a year. They were very expensive, very involved. Mm-hmm. And going to the Disney store helped to scratch that itch a little bit. And you don't have that now.
Right, exactly. And being a former cast member, the 50% of people that were coming into the store were those people that were coming in because they needed to feel like they were at Disney.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting ready for my next trip. Oh, it's been so long since I've been there. I need to hear the Disney music. Even though I have Disney music at home,
because the environment made it special. The cast members made it special.
Yeah, like where else do you go on vacation that's like that? Like, oh, I'm going back to Italy. Let me go to Olive Garden for some... Said no one ever. Like, what else do you have this?
It was that chance to recharge between your trips.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm going down the shore. Let me go play in the sandbox. Like, you don't, like, Disney was that unique.
And I think ultimately in the long run, it's a detriment to Disney as a corporation, but ultimately it's a detriment to the fans. It's the Disney store really played towards the fans. It gave you a place to be. If you were a Disney fan, it made it okay to be a Disney fan.
Yeah.
It gave you a place to interact with other people. It gave you a place to immerse yourself in that without having to get on a plane and fly into Florida or California if you wanted to go to the wall.
It's so better.
The castle at Disneyland is pretty pitiful. Okay.
Sorry to all of our California fans.
Not their fault. Disney's had plenty of ample opportunity to rebuild that castle.
You can't just build a castle. All right.
Sure you can. You literally could just pick it up and move it to the side.
Yes, I didn't Tokyo Disneyland do that.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think Tokyo, put a castle on top of...
Yeah.
They added, extensions. So technically, yeah, they could. So,
There you go. Anyway, I digress.
We digress.
So, yeah, we obviously missed the Disney store. Even me, not being a Disney fan, it was always an interesting experience to go in.
Right,
So even I missed that.
Because you said in the previous episode, you used to experience it with your niece. It was that chance to have some Disney magic without...
I got to be that cool uncle for a day.
Right.
Take her to that, maybe go see it. That's what it was. The one time we went to see Little Mermaid.
Okay.
And then we went to the mall to buy her one of the stuffed Little Mermaid plushies they had. So it was that complete...
Right. That circle of,
Right. No, that's a different movie. That's Circle of Life thing.
Name after.
Anyway.
Anything
to say to sum up?
No.
No, we're all done. We're all summed up.
I think so. We miss it, and I don't. Even to just kind of add, even the stores that are open, like World of Disney, have changed from what they used to be. They're not as interactive, immersive as they once were. So Disney just in general kind of moved away.
And I think retail in general kind of has. We talked about the WB store.
Right. But even the New York store, the one that was on Fifth Avenue, which you never got to go to, was so big, so much of that was actually where I first saw the Harvey's bag, the seatbelt bags. I had never seen them any place. I saw them in New York, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then that store closed. They changed. It's still a Disney store, but just a different vibe to it. It was just never the same as it was in the 90s. So,
all right. Well, I think that's it for this one. I think we've nagged about the Disney store enough here. What are we considering this? The mid-season break point?
I think this is kind of the season finale, mid-season break. As we've mentioned before, in 51 days, as of the recording of this episode, we will be embarking on Disney Cruise number 2
Disney Fantasy.
On the Disney Fantasy. So different ship, different itinerary.
Finally, a ship with 3 banks of elevator. What a novel idea.
It can have the same amount of people, which I think it actually does. I don't
think it does.
I think it's
significantly less.
I don't think but has more elevators. So we're looking forward to that. This will be
that'll be a whole other series.
A whole other series.
We'll drag that one out and just drag
it. Be many days of.
That's true. Yeah.
We're not going to be doing his
work 4-day cruise.
4-day cruise, and we're flying this time. We haven't flown in many years, so
my arms get so tired.
Anyway, so probably going to take a little break. We might do something before the cruise. Not sure yet. We do have
There's a couple of things we'll talk about. Disney Quest being one of them. What was the other one?
Quest, Pleasure Island.
Pleasure Island
is another. If there's anything out there that you're missing Disney-wise, that you feel Disney is missing the magic,
we would love.
You want us? Email us. Give us some topics, ideas to talk about. To bash, not bash.
No, I'll bash them.
Oh,
it's okay.
No bash. I'll talk. Please feel free to do that.
Email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. I know it doesn't make much sense because it's missing the magic,
but
we're all under one big
happy umbrella
parent company.
Yeah, right. We have parent companies.
Yes, and I think that's it. Right?
That's it.
All right. Well, thanks for putting up with us for another episode, and we'll see you on the next.
Have a good one, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
That's a wrap on this episode of Missing the Magic. If you enjoyed the mix of cheers and critiques, follow the show. Leave a quick rating and share it with a fellow fan. Have a question, hot take, or park hack we should try? Send it our way at comments@insightsintothings.com. or call it and leave us a voicemail at 856-403-8788. Thanks for listening, and thanks to Disney for the memories worth talking about. Keep your ears handy, bring your backpack, and we'll meet you back here for more Missing the Magic.